Hi everybody, it's Bonetta Wainman here, and we're talking about my anxious teen and how to help them with resilience. This is one of my most favourite subjects, I must say, because I feel that I've always had resilience. My mother was just one of those positive people who, she didn't have an easy life, and a lot of things came along to sort of knock her down, but she always got back up, always saw a way forward. And so I suppose really that's where I got my resilience from. We came from a different era, right? If you're anywhere near that sort of like 40-year-old person who's got a teen, which I'm sure a lot of you are, then you will have been brought up in an era whereby you just went to school, you complained about school, you had friends, you fell out, you had things to do after school, you found hobbies, and spent a lot of your time outdoors in nature. These things are all things that I suppose we need to push a little bit of what we know onto our children. This is a very challenging time for everybody. And so what I want to look at today is why resilience is important, how we can instill that a bit on our teens, and who can help us as well. What I find a lot of the time is that teens get into their own sort of funk. I'll call it funk. They think that we don't know what we're talking about, that the world is terrible, that there's nothing to look forward to. And I can see their point of view, right? When we think about what we've gone through for the last 18 months, I can see that that would be something that would knock them down. And each time we get knocked down, it's slightly worse. So in Victoria here, we've had 6 lockdowns. Some of them short, only 2 or 3 days, and some of them long, like 4 months. So they just get into this feeling of, I know what's going on, I can handle this, and start having something to look forward to in their lives. And then all of a sudden, something comes along. So a curveball comes along and it's thrown at us. And we as the parents are finding it sometimes difficult to deal with those things. So how does it feel for a teen? How does it feel for somebody who really wants to be out there, wants to play games, wants to be out in nature? So I'm just having a look at Adair, and she says, yeah, crikey, 6 lockdowns. Yeah. The thing is that Australia isn't united. It isn't united in that each state has its own ways, its own lockdowns, and its own borders. That, I think, isn't the same as a lot of other countries. You might have countries that have a border outside their country, whereby you have to show a passport or whatever to travel. But here, we can normally just travel within our states, which is, we are a big country, right? We can travel from one place to another. We can make plans to go on holiday to somewhere warm or to somewhere cool or to somewhere that's got mountains or, anything really. We have everything as long as we can do it, as long as we can travel. But it's been really hard for the last 18 months. I know someone who just yesterday I was talking to when we were out for a walk. We can actually go out for a walk together as long as we keep our masks on. And she was saying that this is the 3rd time that she has booked somewhere, and it's only country Victoria, but we're not even allowed to go through the barrier of the regional side of it. I think we are coming out of lockdown, so I've heard today, which means that we can travel to country Victoria. However, we can't travel to New South Wales or Queensland at the moment. So thinking about this even on my own level, I get a little upset and I get a bit frustrated and I get a bit angry sometimes. But for me, I can see a way through it, right? I have developed my conscious mind as well as my subconscious mind. So the subconscious mind is there to protect us, and it will just say to us, well, you're never going to do that. It's going to be something that's going to be ongoing forever. And we know that that's not true. So if you can slip into your conscious mind, the one that's logical, and say, okay, other countries have said, as long as we vaccinate so many people, we're going to allow them to mingle, go out, do whatever they want to do. Our country's a little bit behind in that, and not everybody wants to be vaccinated, which is fine. I think that if you're vaccinated, you have more coverage and you may be able to, at some time, travel easier with that in mind. But if you decide not to vaccinate, then of course, you may be a little bit more cautious about who you hang out with, where you go in the country, and maybe just look after yourself more, so your general health. Our children at the moment are not being vaccinated. Therefore, I feel it's very important for me to say this, is that if we want to have choices, let's help them to be healthier. So how do we do that? How do we become healthier so that we can be resilient in our body? Because it's not just resilience in our mind, to get up and be able to move on and look forward. It's also resilience in our body. So to actually help us to be resilient in our body, we need to eat healthier, go outside, in the fresh air, in the sunshine, get some vitamin D, and also to relax more. Quite often, particularly our teens who are coming up to what we in Australia call years 11 and 12, which is when they'll be doing their assessments and their exams before they're allowed to go to university. They tend to push themselves a lot. And I know some parents who are very pushy in that they say, you must study, 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 not take time out, not take time off. However, I know from being with teens and with helping them through this time of exams, because as a hypnotherapist, that's a great thing to do, is to help them to relax through the time where they're taking exams, is to study for approximately an hour so that their mind isn't overcrammed with all the learnings that they're taking in. So what about if they study for an hour and then they get up, have a drink of water, go outside, listen to some great music, whatever it is that's going to bring them some enjoyment, some fun, something to take them away from the learning for a while. When we're doing hypnotherapy, sometimes it's really good to do something what we call as break state. So they come in a state of anxiety sometimes, and you let them talk about that anxiety, whatever is worrying them right at that moment. And what I would really say to you is try not to trivialize how they feel. Try not to trivialize their emotions and feelings about what's going on, but to rather sit and listen and to use words like, oh, that's interesting, or I'm curious to know. I'm curious to know why you think that. When we're in a state of anxiety, our subconscious mind goes into overwhelm. It's overwhelmed with thoughts and feelings that we really don't know what to do with. And so our body decides, oh, there must be really something wrong here. There must be something that I need to do to help the person to deal with this. And that would usually be, let's run away, let's fight this, or let me just sit. And let me just sit is a great thing for a while, right? Let me just sit and work this out. So if you can be calmer, if you can bring a bit of calm to the situation, then it really helps them to find their conscious mind, their logical mind. So when I have someone come into my room who's in an anxious state, I allow them for a little while to run, to hide, to fight, to do whatever they need to do, to allow them to get rid of that pent-up anxiety, that stress that they're feeling. It could be at home that I would instruct those people to, when they feel it coming on, to take some breaths. And if they're not able to, what about punching a pillow, punching a punching bag, even screaming, not at someone, but screaming outside, if it's okay, or writing it down. Quite often I will say to them, why don't you journal what you're feeling? Journal it, look at it later when you're actually feeling more calm, and see how that feels. See how that feels to you right then, reading it back. And when you're in a calm state, it may be that you can even laugh at that, right? You can go, oh my gosh, why was I feeling that? It's a very strange thing to actually read back what you journaled when you were in a state of anxiety. So let's give them what they need, whether it's time to calm down, whether it's a journal to write things down. And you know what? No one else has to read it. It's not about anyone else's feelings. It's about how they feel. But if they want to read it to you or to me, that's great. Sometimes they do when I ask them if they'd like to read out what they wrote, and sometimes they don't. Sometimes it might be a couple of lines out of pages and pages of something they've written. Let's think about how we can really help them, okay? Pushing them at a time when they're already feeling stressed and under pressure is not something that will help, is it? Let's think about this logically, right? When we are stressed, for instance, this morning I had lots to do. I had a lot to do before I got here, and I just did the basics. I did what I needed to do, what I feel I needed to do right then. Eat something, drink something. I did a bit of ironing. I fed the animals. I did a little bit of social media, right? Because those things are important to me. Oh, and by the way, I did text a few of my clients who are feeling a little bit anxious at the moment, just to see how they're going. And I offered them, a free session or a Zoom session, even if they can't come to my room and see me, because some people really like to see me face to face. And I love to see them too. I must admit, I really like to be face to face and feel their energy and to hug them. Hi, Roz. Hi, it's lovely to see you. And I love Roz's program too. I think everybody loves to hear what the cards say, right? She reads cards and she gives us some insight as to what the universe is telling us. And it really helps sometimes to have that reassurance, or to know that, okay, I'm feeling a little bit sort of antsy today. I don't know why I'm feeling this way. And Roz will come along and say, hey, at the moment, like there's the Lionsgate, and it's letting through a lot of emotional disturbance. And so it might be that you haven't been sleeping, or you've been feeling a bit out of sorts, and Roz will just give us a great reading, and I love to watch. So that's also something, that our kids could do. So I love my cards. I have a couple of particular sets of cards that I like more than others. But there's also some that aren't as scary as the tarot, because if you don't know what you're reading, it may be a little scary. But there's angel cards, and I've got my numerology cards, and I've got ones that is my kick-ass cards. So there's so many that you can buy that aren't scary, and you could take them to choose them. So it just gives them a little bit of insight as to what might be going on. Yes, thanks, Adair. I love how hypnotherapists support each other. I love how, they're always there. And actually, I did put out a post this morning just to see what people would say. And I said, life often throws us curveballs. And I didn't say one had been thrown at me, but people were coming forward and asking me, am I okay? Can they help? So support is always there. Quite often we feel on our own. We feel on our own with our teens, and when they start telling us that they don't like us, even hate us, right? Because we're pulling them into line, or we're, telling them that they have boundaries that they need to keep to. And boundaries are quite often difficult to, I suppose, make them toe the line to. But I think if we sit down with them, we say why we want them to do what we're asking them to do, it makes it slightly better. And we may say, well, I'm curious to know why you think that those boundaries are difficult for you or challenging for you. So let's really sit down with our teens and ask them the questions. Ask them valuable questions that aren't judgmental. Once we start telling them what they need to do, what they should do, they start pulling away, right? So let's say, would you do that for me? There's lots of things I may do for you in return. And quite often, I know that our teens want things like new clothes, or their room, I suppose, enhancing with things. They may want to go out with their friends. They may want to go swimming, go to the beach, whatever it is. So there are lots of things we can negotiate about. And when we negotiate with them, when we sort of come to a compromise, it's much better than us telling them what they have to do or need to do or should do, okay? So let's be wise. We are the wiser. We are the older, wiser people who, if we can just teach them without being judgmental about things, if we can just go, you know what, times have changed. We brought them up to be independent and to have their rights listened to, or to go where they want to go. I have a story about that. In fact, my daughter at 18, when she left school, year 12, she was undecided what she wanted to do with her life. And she tried to get into journalism and didn't manage it because the ATAR, which is the score that they give at school, was too low. Even though she did really, really well, it wasn't well enough what they thought for journalism, because I think they wanted something like 85, which is a high score, right? Anyway, so she decided that she would go off to be an au pair over in Europe. It was winter. She decided, like, I suppose 2 weeks before, that she would want to go. She found out that she'd have to drive on the other side of the road, because she was going to France first. She was going to Paris. She found out that she had to drive a manual car, which is like a stick, right? Instead of the car that she was used to, which was an automatic. And she just decided she was going to do it. So before she went, we prepared her as much as we possibly could with taking her out in a manual car. We couldn't obviously prepare her for driving on the other side of the road, or for looking after 3 children that she was going to be looking after. But she had decided. I could have laid down the law and said, no, you're not going. You're only just 18, and it's too scary. However, in my wisdom, I knew that my daughter had a very good head. She would think about things. She would work her way through it. And also that I couldn't be in charge of her forever. She's pretty headstrong. And so when she decided that she was going, I just did everything I could to support her. I helped her to get some money together. She worked in a dog groomer's to get some money. She'd already been doing that while she was studying. And she went. There were some tough times ahead, some big learning curves for her. But she drove a 4-wheel drive in the snow in Paris, looked after 3 children, lived in a basement, a very cold basement, and she did it all herself. She managed to do what she needed to do. So I think that preparing them, that's right. Thanks, Roz. It's just knowing that if you give them the right tools, and if you give them the support that they need, and to know that if she really didn't like it, if she really wanted to leave, that I was supportive of her coming home, that I would book a flight. I would make it so that she could get home. So she had a cop out. And I think that's one thing that we also need to tell our children, that, you know what, whatever you do, it needn't be for life. If you get married, if you move interstate, if you move abroad, then you can just come home. You can just get on a flight normally. Not right now, okay? Not right now. But generally, you can just get on a flight and you can come home. If you need help, you can call for help. And it doesn't matter what age they are, whether they're teenagers or whether they're in their 20s or 30s or 40s, we, as their parents, as their mums, will be there for them. I remember a terrible story, in fact, that one of my good friends got married very young, and she was adopted. And her parents believed that if you got married, if you, I suppose, committed to someone else, you stayed no matter what. She was in a very abusive relationship. she was getting beaten, and she eventually told her mum what was going on because she couldn't hold it in any longer. And her mum told her to go back home. Luckily, this girl had a grandparent who didn't believe the same as her mum. And it was her dad's mum. And it was her dad's mum that eventually helped her an awful lot and gave her the support she needed. So with resilience, it's to teach our children that not everything goes to plan. Not everything goes to plan. And sometimes we just need to just put on our big girl pants or big boy pants and take whatever's coming, right? Take whatever's coming and make the most of it. What I always believe is that if one door closes, another one opens. And I don't know if you share that belief, but if one door closes, there's something better on the other side if you allow it. So allow them to see that too. Yes, let them grieve. If it's a broken romance, let them grieve, be angry, whatever it is that they need to get out of their body and their mind, and say, okay, how can you move forward now? Because what hurts us the most is that we are the ones being hurt. When someone dies, it's, even if they're in pain, it's that release that allows them to go to the other side, right? And sometimes I know I've sat with people who are dying and I've said to the relatives, please, if you think they're holding on for you, could you tell them it's okay to go? It's okay. You will be okay. Yes, you will be sad. Yes, you will grieve their loss. But one day it will be okay. So for anyone who's listening here, if you need a hand, if you need someone to listen to this, please just share it with someone, with anyone, with your, I don't know, with your groups, with someone who you know needs to hear these words today. Just share it. And I'm here for you. As I'm here for my clients every day. And I say to my young teens, you can call me anytime, but if you call me at 2 a.m., I might not be real happy, okay? I might not be really happy. Also, you can listen to my download, which is free to everybody today, plus the notes from today, because they contain a lot more things than I've said, obviously. But if you want any of those things, please just comment. And if you leave a comment, they'll be sent to you. And I'm just sending you all my love. And I'll see you soon. Okay. Bye-bye for now.